I'd like to call the meeting to order of the Lincoln Community High School District 210 Board of Education regular meeting scheduled for Thursday, January 17, 2019. Please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Slack. Here. Ms. Janice Doyle. Here. Mr. Luchetti.
Here.
Mr. Lulo.
Here.
Mr. Janet.
Here.
Mr. Costick.
Here.
Mr. Cooking.
Here. Thank you. Next are our student council presidents. We'll start with Hannah.
Good evening, everyone, and Happy New Year. It is hard to believe we are already halfway through the school year. Over break, our sports teams were working hard, and the JV boys bowling team captured the SWSC conference title. On Friday, January 25th, Lincoln Way Central will recognize our girls golf team at the basketball game, where the third place state trophy will be presented to Dr. Probus. Freshmen, sophomores, and juniors are preparing for next year already with course selection that is currently taking place during their gym hours this week. Juniors are also beginning preparation for the SAT with a practice test that is being offered this Saturday. Central had the highest scores in Will County last year, and we are hoping to keep that title. Our seniors recently received their class of 2019 spirit wear, and it is rocked in the hallway daily. As for student council, we are preparing for twerk, which will take place on February 16th, and our theme this year is A Night at the Disco. It has been a great start to second semester, and we are looking forward to the 70s theme dance. Thank you.
Thank you. Maddie.
Second semester is in full swing at Lincoln Way East and is already getting very busy. Student council is hard at work, making the second half of the year unforgettable. Plans have begun for our winter dance twerk. Yesterday, student council met to decide on a theme and days for Spirit Days, but those are still pending approval from administration. Twerk 2019 will be held on February 9th, and entertainment will be provided by B96 Boom. In addition, practices have begun for our Mr. and Mrs. Griffin talent show that will be held on March 2nd. We will host tryouts for our talent show, which is open to all Griffin students next Wednesday. Proceeds from the show go to awarding scholarships to Lincoln Way East seniors. We anticipate giving away more than 15 scholarships this year. Last year we sold nearly 1,000 tickets, so we're hoping for another great turnout. Our science department will be hosting the STEM Science Night for our future Griffins. Kindergarten through 4th graders will learn about popular science topics. Admission will be free for the event, but they are asking for lightly used baby materials and books as a donation. This Saturday, the Lincoln Way East FBLA is hosting the regional competition for future business leaders from all over the Chicagoland area will be in attendance. And finally, we'd like to wish the best of luck to our varsity cheer team as they will be competing for the conference title at Lincoln Way West, and our varsity dance team who will be competing this weekend at Normal High School. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Second semester has started off very well for us at Lincoln Way West. Before I get into that, our student council hosted our first ever community holiday event called Polar Express, and it went very well with over 400 people in attendance, and we had crafts, games, cookie decorating, and a train. And with second semester starting up, our sports teams are doing very well. With girls basketball, beat Central on the game on Tuesday. Our wrestling team won the Illini Cup at West last weekend and also won the SWSC last night. Our cheer team got second place last weekend, and we are hosting the SWSC cheer this Saturday. Last weekend, our JV dance team won the SWSC Red, and our varsity team took second place. And for theater, the theater company has their Black Box 8 performance on January 31st through February 2nd. And because of its popularity, they were able to add a matinee for our Saturday show. And coming in February, we are getting ready for our open house that will be on February 13th. And we are also getting ready for Twerk, which will be on February 16th. And our theme is Disney. And we are really getting prepped for that with student council and looking forward to a great second semester. Thank you.
Thank you. Well done. Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is public comment. And the first person I have lined up is Scott Swabodny. Is there any?
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
All right, I wrote something out because if I didn't, I'd probably fumble over my words. There's been a handful of research done under the topic of how early is too early for teenagers to start school in the morning. Time magazine did a story about a year ago when the American Academy of Sleep Medicine, which was formerly known as the Association of Sleep Disorders Centers, came out with an official statement regarding this. The AASM has actually been around since 1975. It's a well-known group. They are a group of scientists and health experts with over 10,000 members. Their statement or position is being backed up too by the American Academy of Pediatrics and the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC. Their position is middle and high school students should start school no earlier than 8:30 a.m. They say that chronic sleep loss among teenagers is resulting in or is associating with poor school performance, a higher risk of symptoms of depression, obesity, cardiovascular problems, risk-taking behaviors, and athletic injuries, just to name a few. They support this position with a biological reason. They say teenagers, as they go through puberty, their brains produce the sleep-inducing hormone melatonin on a delayed basis. So this makes it difficult for them to feel tired before 11 p.m. at night. Consequently then, they won't get the needed 8 hours or so of sleep. And in fact, the CDC says that 70% of high schoolers report 7 or less hours of sleep on a regular basis. So the reason I'm here today is knowing all of this, and I'm not going to complain about 0 hour or anything like that, but we've got sports coaches conducting mandatory practices at 5 a.m. So my kid is getting up at 4 or 4:30 to be at school for an extracurricular activity. Apparently, this has been going on for years. I wasn't aware of it. I just found out when my daughter started to try out for the track team. I understand that there's limits on space with the field house and the gyms, but there's got to be another option. The most logical one to me is why aren't they using Lincoln Way North? The Park District uses that facility right now, but I went there and got a schedule of their events. Their open gym time doesn't start till 5:30 p.m. And I talked to one of the Park District employees, and he said that they've got teams from Governor State, Rich South High School coming in and practicing all the time. So, well, that's kind of nice. Their students from outside the district get to use our facilities, but our students whose parents pay tax money to support the facility aren't allowed to use the facilities. Our students are the ones then that have to get up at 4 o'clock, disrupt their normal sleeping habits, and now that we know through studies by the CDC, Academy of Pediatrics, and AASM, they're actually putting their health and their academic performance in jeopardy. And we, the parents, have to figure out a way to get our kids to school at 5 a.m. for an extracurricular activity. And there's really no other way to describe the situation but to say that there's something extremely wrong here. And so I strongly urge the board to do something to correct the situation. And put an end to the 5 a.m. practices and let our kids use our facilities that our tax money is supporting. Thanks. I appreciate any feedback.
Thank you, Scott.
Nothing at this time. It's something I'll discuss with the board. As we know, swimming, track, basketball, baseball, softball, soccer, you name it, at different times of the season, we do have normal practices. That's something that we've had. But that's something, if the board wants to discuss as policy, we can. I would encourage you to reach out to the AD and the principal at Lincoln Way East to have those discussions and possibly the coach on those different philosophies.
And I spoke with the principal, and she, kind of got the impression that, well, hey, my kids did it. There's not really much flexibility here. If we're supporting that north facility, why wouldn't our kids be able to use that facility?
Yeah, you did a very eloquent job of making your point. So I think there's a lot of heads nodding when you were talking. So we'll discuss it, see if there's something we can do, and we appreciate you bringing that to our attention.
And even other alternatives too. I know there's a lot of what do they call it, air domes being constructed in cold weather states. I don't know if that's an option too. That's something that I investigated a little bit. The cost isn't outrageous. You can rent out the facility, on off times, and you actually recoup your money within 3 to 5 years, I'm told.
Very good. No, thank you. It was very well done. We'll definitely give another advice. Thank you, sir. Next signed up is Ross Wadinsky.
I'm restricting that pass at this time.
Okay, thank you, Ross. Anyone else? If not, we'll move on to the next part of the agenda. This would be presentation of the Rose Parade stained glass to the Board of Education.
Good evening, I'm Kylie Rinke. Over the past 3 years, being part of the Lincoln Way Marching Band has been an amazing experience. It has allowed me to become a better leader among my peers and a better citizen in our community. This past January 1st, the LWMD had the privilege of marching in the Tournament of Roses Parade in Pasadena, California. This was an amazing experience, and I'm going to keep those memories with me for the rest of my life, and I am so glad that we were chosen. To commemorate this occasion, I am proud to present to the district a stained glass piece of the Tournament of Roses logo.
Thank you.
Right up here. Right around there.
No, we'll do it right here with the board in the back. Rather than the awkward reach over the chair. Take 2 seconds, come around, let's get it.
We'll come around this round.
Let's do this right. They went to the Rose Bowl. Come on. Rose Bowl parade.
I was one of those at home watching,
It's fun being there.
freaking out that you weren't going to make it wrong.
All right, now let's do it.
Don't move. The band did amazing, I gotta tell you. Thanks, it was amazing to watch. I didn't go, but I watched, because I just mumbled quickly. Yeah, it was amazing to watch. And news reporters have been incredible.
You got it.
You have no idea how what they did. the before
Oh, you mean? Thank you. That's even more precious. Congratulations. I think now would be appropriate if everybody's got 10 seconds. They want to talk about what a wonderful job they did before they leave the room.
Oh, yeah.
Please.
Oh,
Great job, very good job.
I mean, it was
Fun
memory of
being
a
there.
lifetime to share, right? Oh, that's amazing.
It was amazing to watch.
It was so cool.
And I think that it was a little prophetic that you had the challenge in front of you.
Yeah.
You know, the flow
Yeah.
that, and it actually emphasized your performance and your appearance and put you in a whole different spotlight, which was awesome. So,
Yeah.
And I just found out that she actually made that stained glass. So that thing-
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so
Very
much.
much.
Awesome. So thank you again and congratulations. Please share with everyone. I was texting Dr. Johnson the whole time you guys were out there, but it was awesome. Congratulations. Curriculum and instruction update.
Follow that, huh? All right, well, tonight's curriculum and instruction report focuses on an update on board goal number 2. Board goal number 2 is to enhance curriculum with innovative instruction, assessment, and the infusion of the social emotional learning standards. More specifically, our task this year that was undertaken by our department chairs and all of our teachers across the curriculum was to add social emotional learning standards to each curriculum unit. We've been talking about social emotional learning for several years now, kind of getting a feel for what it looks like and what it feels like in the classroom, how we can support students with stress and anxiety and other areas of social emotional learning. But this was another task all in and of itself. So starting back in August, during each delayed start, each of our course groups in every department began looking at what the actual standards really were and how they were implemented across the curriculum. And so each department, in this case, the example is biology, took a look at their units. In this case, it's the ecosystems. And in addition to already having a full curriculum full of learning targets and vocabulary, they went ahead and added social emotional learning standards, and there are 10 of them. And so discussions then ensued in each department about the activities and all the content, the skills that take place during that unit, and decided exactly which social emotional standards were already addressed and where there were gaps that they could be added. So for example, in this case of ecosystems, they already recognize that this is where they have students consider ethical, safety, and societal factors in making decisions and the contribution or contributing to the well-being of their community. So that was a logical fit. So these discussions and the process of creating these was actually the most important part. So every unit now across our curriculum, this is a sample from our Spanish 1 curriculum, now includes social emotional learning standards, those highlighted there. This comes from our business and technology department. You can see they've also been added. And now social emotional learning is actually now just a part of our curriculum. It's embedded in there and kind of and addressed in each of our classes. In this case, this is our art curriculum. So after evaluating the courses, looking at the standards, creating further even more opportunities for social emotional learning standards, we are at the last step, which is sharing all of these on our website. We're about halfway there. If you were to go to our website and head to the academics and into each of our departments, pull up our website, or pull up all of the curriculum guides, you will see all of the social emotional learning standards embedded in there after the hard work of our curriculum teams all first semester. Now I will turn it over to Dr. Murphy, who will talk about Board Goal 1.
Good evening. So Board Goal 1 is a little bit about we're continuing to update pathways for college and career readiness to meet the needs of all students. So specifically tonight I want to talk a little bit about expanding the blended learning environment to more classrooms and more students. As you may be aware, we currently have about 54 classrooms that have implemented the use of laptop carts into their instruction. This is up from 22 carts from last year. So nearly 3,000 students are utilizing these 1,700 laptops on a daily basis. However, the blended learning reaches much further. Some of our bigger success stories have been with teachers who don't have the cards, who have really gone through our professional development and learned more about how to implement different pieces and parts of our office suite into their daily curriculum. Our teaching staff has participated in, again, the professional development opportunities focused on the implementation of technology in the classroom. In every session that we offered, the focus has remained on implementing technology with a purpose. If technology is going to improve the lesson and student understanding, then we encourage them to continue forward. If not, we ask them to rethink the lesson. I mean, focusing on technology in the classroom with a purpose has always been our goal. So enough listening to me. I have a short video to share with you that you'll hear from some of our teachers and how technology has impacted their classroom. So just one moment.
So having the laptops in my classroom has been a huge advantage to me as a teacher on many fronts. The main area, and something I've been working on for all the years I've been teaching, is trying to take the kids deeper with the material. The laptops allow me to do that. We can go to websites that have online learning environments that allow kids to just dive in and we can explore things that we never thought we could. The traditional, pencil and paper curriculum. Additionally, we've been using OneNote and Nearpod a lot, which gives me a lot of feedback on the kids. Know exactly where they're at. If I need to adjust instruction on the fly, I can easily do so. From the kids' perspective, using OneNote has been really beneficial to them because they're able to have all their notes and everything in one spot instead of losing papers and having to get extra copies. And I was absent this day, and can I get the note? It's all in one spot ready to go. So much easier for them to have all that information.
And so far it has been very good. We have taken the kids and gotten them online. We're using Office 365. We got them onto their email. They're checking grades regularly. We actually are playing games like Kahoot and Quiz Up Live using the tablet function on the computers instead of having their cell phones out, which as a teacher I like them not having their cell phones out, so that makes it much nicer that they have a big tablet and everybody's connecting and we don't have to worry about kids dropping out at home.
This year with one-to-one has been fabulous, especially with our freshman class. I teach a collaborative class, and we have already gotten the students into the routine of coming in every day, taking out the laptops. They have them powered up. They're locked in, and they pull up their bell ringer as the bell rings, and half of them are already done with it. Yesterday in class, what you saw was the students completing a bell ringer. We use Office 365, the Forms app, which the students really like because we'll put a question on it and they can respond right there to all of the questions. It's very easy for them to use. They know how to find it quickly and then they hit submit and they like that it tells them your form has been submitted. So they feel very successful with that. We have, in just 2 weeks it took us, the students were very into the routine of walking into class, getting the laptops and logging on. My senior students, they are also learning a lot. We're using the Teams app more in that class. The students, with some frustrations, it was very interesting to find out they really don't have as many problem-solving tools in their toolkit for them to use. So it's been very helpful for them to see me talk it out and try different things. That's giving them more of a resource of how to figure out how to solve technology problems on their own without having frustration. And this will be particularly important to them next year when they're on their own.
One of the fortunate teachers who have the one-to-one in their classroom this year, and it has helped tremendously in both my freshman level biology and in my junior senior AP biology. The students really like the Nearpod website, app, etc. We just did one today and they raved about the interactive nature that it allows for them to ask me questions, ask each other questions, but it also has these nice features where it takes the pressure off them, where I can hide their names and they feel comfortable being able to share their ideas. Also with the new online biology textbook resources, as well as AP Biology has online resources. We use those several times a week and it provides instant feedback for them in terms of questions that they're struggling with, questions that they know that they're secure with, and the whole Microsoft Teams has been nice. I'm starting to get more comfortable with the assignments. The students are getting more comfortable with it. It has been a learning process, but I think through the ups and downs of it, it's established a little bit more of a team camaraderie in the classroom that has allowed us to bond over this learning process, where some of the students that don't quite understand technology as well as others, then some of them can help each other out. They've helped me out. So even when times haven't been easy, it's still been worthwhile in the long run.
The students' response sometimes is interesting.
Stop it right there. I think we get the idea. Our teachers are very excited. Those that are using technology in the classroom have been doing a really good job of making sure that what they're doing is appropriate for the learning environment and that the students are getting some benefit out of the use of technology in the classroom. One of the exciting things that just happened earlier this week is we had our first site visit from a school coming to visit us to see what we've done with the world of technology and how we started our process of implementing a pseudo one-to-one environment. They're from Hononegah up in Rockford area. So they came down and they visited and had really good discussion with our teachers that they were able to see. And it was very beneficial for them and for us to be able to share the things that we're doing and hearing that we're on the right track from somebody else as well. To sum up, on March 8th, our instructional technologists are going to conclude their formal PD for the year with a tech session focused on implementing technology in our classroom, offering workshops ranging in comfort and ability levels for our teachers. This will allow our teachers to ask more meaningful questions in a more comfortable environment. And these workshops are going to be led by our very own teachers that you saw up here that were sharing their stories with them today, with you today, and others throughout the district. So we have a lot of teachers that have volunteered to share what they're doing. And this has kind of been a request from our staff. They want to learn from teachers that are doing it in our environment, those that are doing it in their curricular areas. And so we're really looking forward to that professional development on Institute Day in March. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. If there are no questions on the curriculum instruction update, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Tonight's consent agenda consists of the approval of the regular minutes of December 13th, 2018, approval of the closed minutes of December 13th, 2018, approval of payroll for December 20th, 2018, and January report 2019, approval of the District 210 advisory minutes from December 10th, 2018. This time, entertain a motion. So moved. Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Any question or discussion? Hearing none, vote please.
Vote is open.
Nothing popped up.
May
I'm
I
on the
just-
main screen.
Okay. So just to, the vote is unanimous, the motion passes.
Thank you. All right, next are action items. First action item is presentation of invoices from December 14th, 2018 through January 17th, 2019. Is there a motion to accept the invoices as presented?
Motion to approve the invoices in the amount of $1,948,707.30 dated January 17th, 2019.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Any discussion on the invoices? Can we take some questions?
I do.
Please.
So I had a little discussion with Brad about this, but two things in particular were V2 Productions LLC, which was $41,000 for lighting, audio repair, and upgrade. That one I might not know exactly what it is. And then the $34,000 to Batting Cages Inc. I know these fall probably under the guideline for bidding, but and as Brad explained, that they're kind of just in the ongoing maintenance. But these are two, at least from my opinion, that would be somewhat discretionary, and we should talk about them in advance before we get a bill for something work that's already been done, when there might be other things that the board would want to look at. So I would think that if these so Brad, you said these were in the budget, correct? So I think anything like over $25,000 that are things like this, batting cages or lighting and audio for an auditorium, should be kind of highlighted at the budget meeting, and the board should kind of know, because I don't even know where these would come out of, whether it be capital outlay, supplies.
Yeah, so these being the amount, they'd be coming out of our ongoing capital repairs. So,
Capital outlay.
yes.
How many of these types of, to your point, of discretionary type items like this would we have annually then? Because that could be running out the bid from time to month. I don't know.
So I didn't say bid, because we have a policy in place
Right.
for bidding. But what I'm saying is, I look at these, we have a sheet that already tells us over 25,000. This is after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing before this has really come to my attention as being anything besides, most of these are repairs, like you see the plumbing one, or, ongoing maintenance work. This is actually purchasing something, nets and services around implementing the nets, and buying lighting, and I'm assuming, I don't know if it's auto repair and upgrade, and audio for the auditoriums. So I don't think, unless someone tells me I'm wrong, things over $25,000 kind of highlighting when we're approving the budget, I don't think would be that many things.
Yeah, I was just wondering, question how much people about it.
I think I understand what you're saying, and I think that, are there any other questions or comments regarding what Chris has pointed out? I think the direction would be to administration then as we move forward, especially with next year's budget, as these types of items, they're not really questioning the process, but just, they be emphasized. And that is, to your point, I'm struggling with the word discretionary, because they may have been in such disrepair that it had to happen, it had been delayed, maintenance.
Well, that could be explained.
Right, and that's where I'm going, is that then if somebody questions one at that time, we can do it prior to the spend, rather than bring it up afterwards. I think that's a fair, and I think obviously the 25,000 is the number, and you're just looking for it to be highlighted. And then we, or the board members, have a responsibility to do their due diligence if they want to bring it up. Does that seem fair, Ron?
Well, when we budget a certain amount, and then as the year progresses, those projects that we're budgeting for are completed, and we're just approving the fact that this particular one was over 25,000.
I think we should discuss things like this that are not a valve repair that must be done, or the floor's gonna flood. Something that's.
I think we should be building the budget from the bottom up, and we should know about these large expenditures before you approve the budget.
I think that's the approach we've been taking. It's a zero-based budget. You start with zero, and then tell me what you need, rather than here's money, go spend it. Which, there's benefits to both, but I think the approach that, at least in the short time that I've been up here, has been zero-based. You build off, and then if it's over a certain dollar amount, it's just either set aside as, or they're emphasized, highlighted, bolded.
So these were planned for. We'll just do a better job communicating ahead of time. These batting cages, Rich, these are the ones at East.
Thank you. On the batting cages, it's really three separate projects. The baseball team at East wanted to put in a batting cage.
They have one. They wanted
it's
a
disrepair.
Yes.
The softball team at East does not have one. At West, they were replacing a batting cage. I was able to combine everybody's resources. They were shipped from Washington. They're big and they're heavy, so we got a break on the shipping. That's why we did it on one invoice and one purchase. But basically, they were money was transferred from boosters, ADs, to principals in order to pay for them. So it's really three separate things that on the batting cages, we put them together to get better shipping.
I think that's the spirit of what we're talking about here, is that I think everybody realizes that it was done and any impact would be minimized, just as you just described. It's just the idea that I think we've done a good job so far of trying to get things before rather than after. And like when we talk about capital projects, would be another example where we're saying, okay, let's look at what we've got in front of us rather than, after the fact. Okay, yeah, you fixed the roof. Okay,
if I recall, door hardware was on there. Right. It was like 39,000. So if we're gonna look at door hardware as a capital outlay, why wouldn't we look at these advantages? And I agree, I mean, everything's all right. I'm not worried about batting cages and new lighting, I'm more in the process, so that we know, and if we do have a question about it, we can ask it in advance, because now, at this point, once you're approving an invoice, it's already done. So that's my only point.
And again, please don't, I think everybody's
Yeah, no,
intentions. I think the culture is such that it's every dime is accounted for, but just the idea that if we do come to a point where we have to decide between one or the other, we should probably do that before rather than after. That's all. So, very good. Thank you, Rich, for the insight. Thank you, Chris, for your comment. Any other comments? If not, we have a motion and a second. Call for a vote, please.
Vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Next, the Treasurer's Report for December 2018. At this time, I entertain a motion to accept the Treasurer's Report as presented in your package.
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second. Brad.
Yes. So for December 31st, we had revenues of just over $3 million while expending $7.1 million, bringing our actual cash balance to $18.9 million. I want to bring a special note that the prior year's financials have been restated for comparability. Typically, we wouldn't do this, but we want to get on track with the January 1st bond payments that had been previously being recorded in December, just because we need to wire the money out a day in advance. So we had recorded them in December. But when it comes to our July 1st bond payments, we can't do that because we're crossing fiscal years. So we want to be consistent on recording all bond payments on the day the bond payment was due. And so we restated those to make these comparable from one year to the other. As you can see there on the monthly cash flow projections, we were $101,000 more revenue than expected and more expenditures than expected for a net overall of $84,000 just on the cash flow. Within budget, we're still right on track. One thing I really want to highlight, I've started putting this in there, I'll do it for the rest of the year, and that is our net cash position, if you will, compared to the prior year. So you can see this is amazing to me, quite frankly. So we're $13.4 million better than in the prior year, because last year at this time we'd already drawn $4.7 million in TAWs, had $10 million in cash for a net position of $5.3. This year we only took the minimum amount that we needed to seal the deal on the TAWs, and we have $18.9 million for 18.8, so 13 million better. I just can't say how much better the district's financials. We're working in the right direction. We still got a ways to go, but we are definitely headed in the right way. Expenditures, revenue is trending great. Of course, interest income is up because we have higher cash balances, and interest revenue rate is higher. As far as expenses go, we're trending good in all areas. We expect to be right in within budget. That concludes my report.
Any questions for Brad regarding that report?
When do the bond payments actually go out? So they don't go out on January 1st. Do they get paid on the 2nd, or do they get paid in December?
Well, they get paid, so we have to wire out the money on the 31st, and they actually get paid on the 1st. So we showed them as the wire in transit on our cash balances. So the payment on the 1st, if you will, so we're recording the actual payment on the 1st.
Is that how you do, and I'm not an accountant, is that how you do cash basis accounting?
Yeah,
or
so.
Is this trying to get into accrual?
No, the fact that it's moved out of cash, and now it sits in wire in transit. So
Yeah, but when does the wire hit the...
Well, the problem is it's a holiday. It's a Fed holiday, so once you wire the money out, it's gone. That I can attest to. So that's the biggest no-no on the thing. Once you hit that enter button, it's gone, and you can't pull it back. So you no longer have access to that cash.
So I would assume that you can't count that as cash because it's not yours anymore.
Well, actually,
Well, that seems
we
to
are
be
counting it as cash.
Well, then that, yeah, because once it's gone, it's gone.
Well, we're recording it as a wire in transit because it's being recorded against our debt on January
Is
1st.
there a custodian? Who's the intermediary that's holding the money for that one day?
Bank of, Mellon Bank of
And
New York.
in whose name? And in whose name?
I'd have to ask.
It's not gonna be like
No,
a
it'd be in
high
our
school.
name because it's.
Well, no,
it's
probably
coming in.
you're wiring it on behalf of whom? Because they're holding it on behalf of whomever you wired it to.
Right. Well, I'll do some more research.
Yeah, we can, no, I appreciate the conversation, and it's a good thing, but I mean, it's, you know, I appreciate what you're trying to do is to match it so it's comparable,
Right.
which is exactly what makes it easier to digest. So it's not, it's just the fact that the way that it works legally is if I were to wire money to Chris, the second I wire it, it's no longer mine. Now, the bank holds it until it puts it into Chris's account, but it's not my money. I've learned that painful lesson.
I'm all for accrual accounting and matching it
Oh,
the
yeah.
proper way. I mean, I'm all for that. But then my question was just directed at, like, if we're planning to be cash basis and the money's out, can we still?
We can have to show them 31st.
So that's just my question.
That's just my question. I can
question.
discuss that. Maybe we can run that by, Dave or somebody, Marmaradi. Maybe there is a principle there that the way this gets set up.
Yeah, we'll ask the auditors for clarification.
Good point again. Okay, any other questions?
Can we go over this, I'm assuming this is part of Treasurer's report, this, the paying of the TAWs. Early draw.
The early draw,
The
yeah.
interest is less, I don't understand
What
this
are you looking
concept.
at?
So there was in his
Right.
memo,
The second.
We can share the
Interest
mics
comparison.
from
Oh,
here.
sorry.
They're all struggling with it. Pretty relative.
So,
It was in the,
it's an additional attachment on the,
you made mention of it. I guess that if you take the TAWs earlier in the month, you save
So-
more money.
right, so what we had been doing last year is we would go ahead and let all the funds collect up throughout the month, and we'd use whatever we collected up through the month to make the first payroll, on the 5th payroll, okay? First payroll of the month. Then, on the 16th or 17th, we would take the draw in preparation for the 20th payroll, okay? And then, here again, we've got the money collected up. The deal is, with timing, we have set days we have to deposit on payroll. So I have to have the funds absolutely there, collected, ready for those payrolls. By moving the draw up and taking it in advance of the 5th payroll, what that allows us to do is it allows us to be tighter on our cash flow projections, because there's a little flexibility at the end of the month when we're mailing out. Obviously, checks don't start clearing the bank. We mail out all our bills, but they, move in slowly. And so we'll have kind of check float, if you will, from the time we mail out the bills until they actually get into the bank. Well, what I was noticing on my cash flow is my day-to-day cash flow was a lot higher than I really wanted. Here we are drawing on TAWs, and yet we still got all this money sitting in the bank. So by taking it the first of the month, I know I have the funds on hand needed to make those very strict dates I need for payroll, and then I let the cash collect up during the month, and I can use that to fund accounts payable.
So you're able to borrow less is what you're saying?
Yes. we're
Okay,
able
so
to
that was,
borrow
that's the piece I was missing.
Yeah.
I didn't get that. So by not having to estimate, you're able to borrow less.
Right. I will say, I pushed my cash flow pretty darn tight, and going back through it a second time, the last payroll May, we'll see, May's a ways away, but, obviously we'll be adjusting as we go, but as it stands right now, my last payroll in May, I pushed it too tight. So we'll see how it all shakes out. But the bottom line is trying to minimize the amount outstanding to reduce our PAW interest cost.
Okay. Any other questions? I believe we have a motion and a second. Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you, and thank you, Brad. Next is our student activities report for 2018. This time, for December 2018, I'm sorry. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to accept the student activities report as presented.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second? Motion and a second. Any discussion on the student activities report? Scott, anything on that?
Just three counts in the negative. One has been closed by the timing of this memo, and then the other two will be by the close of this month.
Anything else regarding the student activities? If not, we have a motion and a second. Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Next, our employment reports, Rob.
All right. Under employment, we have Frank Cogswell, bus driver, Seamus Brennan, computer tech, Brianna Feldman, food service, Jessica Stroner, food service, and Dan Zableski, head boys golf coach. Ask the board to approve the employment report as presented.
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion on the employment report? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. Vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Thank you. Rob.
Okay, under resignations, we have Michelle Cardolano, teacher, Melissa Dorsens, food service, Linda Egnatz, teacher, Leah Fortcamp, teacher, Matt Granger, teacher, Felicia Jakubik, teacher, Samantha Korzen, teacher, Matt Lawrence, head girls volleyball coach, Carolyn Mushrow, teacher, Evan Panfield, paraprofessional, Dan Pattison, paraprofessional, and Cindy Wardinsky, computer tech. And just as a note, the number of teachers that are on there, those are all folks that were on leave this last year and have opted not to return for next year for different career exploration reasons.
Some have been on for 2 years.
They've been
Some
on
this
leave
is
for
their
2
second
years.
year.
So they've opted.
The teacher there.
That's
Yours,
not.
Matt Granger's 2019, 2020?
Yeah, just so at the end of the year.
Okay.
So they're not teaching, they're teaching currently.
No, they're all on leave. Okay, then under leaves, we got Kelly Byrne, teacher, will take off the 1920 school year, and Amanda Trazer, teacher, will also take off the 1920 school year. Ask the board to approve these leaves and resignations as presented.
Entertain a motion to accept the report as presented.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? Any additional discussion?
That's a contractual, by contract, they had to notify us Tuesday.
Motion and second. Call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
All right. Next action item is our 2019-2020 school calendar. Entertain a motion of the school calendar as presented in your package. There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second.
Yeah, just a brief overview. I have met with all the feeder districts. We've spent quite a bit of time going through this calendar. The state changed some of the effective laws for the school calendar going into next year. There are 176 attendance days now, student attendance days plus the 5. You can define your own student attendance day, whether it's a partial day, half day, e-learning day. So as you can see on there, our very last day of the school year, we do have student attendance half institute, so that we stay at the total number of work days that we currently have in our teacher's contract without going back to the table and renegotiating an additional day. This will be permissible under the law. There is discussion in Springfield that they'll go back to 175 once everybody gets down there. Either way, we'll be fine and be able to adjust. We will start our school year on August 19th with an institute on the Monday. This year is a year that the IHSA bumps back 1 week, so the entire IHSA calendar moves back. So all fall sports begin August 12th. In the past, sometimes they would start the previous Wednesday. So that, in effect, would be the starting date for us on the 19th. One change in November, we would like to have the parent-teacher conferences on Tuesday, the 26th, the week of Easter. This is also something that grade schools have. Thanksgiving. This is something that the grade schools have also moved to. And then we would have a non-attendance day on the 27th and a holiday on the 28th. None of the grade schools have been on session on the 27th, and that has put a strain on our substitute teaching pool, trying to find teachers, as many teachers stay home with their little ones. So I think this will help with that a little bit. 2 full weeks off for the winter break, as we've had in the past, the institute coming back, and then spring break would begin March 30th. The test, the SAT test, will be on April 14th, the Tuesday after Easter. Now, why that's the date we picked for the state of Illinois, I won't understand, but that precipitates us moving spring break there to the end of March once again, so that students are in school 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th. We'll be able to do SAT prep that week, get them ready for the test on the 14th. So I would propose that this would be a calendar for next school year moving forward. Any questions regarding the calendar?
Just a quick question. It looks like for semester classes, there's 81 student attendance days for first semester, 90 for second semester. That's 9 instructional days different. Semester classes, that's like 2 weeks of instruction.
Yes, and actually it'll end up 83, 93 if you take the 5. It is, and that's something we've talked to our department chairs. We have had this before, but this is kind of as far as we would go, so to speak.
Okay.
We met with the union. We also met with our DCs. The other option would be to move the start date back to the 14th, which nobody wanted to start before the middle of August. The discussion would be to move semester finals after the winter break, which the few schools that still do that are looking to move it prior. But you're right, that is the one disadvantage to taking those finals before the winter break.
Yeah. And then would graduation be 26, 27, 28 after Memorial Day or the week prior?
We would go 26, 27, 28 the week after Memorial Day.
I think we've been doing spring break the last week in March for.
Well, we've done it kind of the last full week is what we've been doing.
Oh, and this is moving it back.
Moving it back one. The week of the 30th, quite honestly, it was a split vote between the feeders. We were kind of a swing vote. Our ADs wanted that next week because they feel that each week back gives them a better chance to get outside and have some of our athletic contests that week. And that's a good argument. So yeah, we would go the 30th through the 3rd there.
Any other questions or comments?
Strange choice for the SAT.
Well, originally they told us the 7th, which would have made, we felt, but a little more sense. Then you could have gone spring break the 23rd or gone around Easter, which is the 12th of April. But yeah, it's a strange date.
Yeah. Okay.
Call for a vote.
The vote is open.
The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Next on the agenda is the elementary transportation plan.
Yes, each one of the elementary feeder districts have already approved these agreements. This is now up to this board for agreement. As you know, we've rewritten the contract. Some of the highlights, we added what we call the operational terms. We've also added an administrative fee of 2.74%. And probably the biggest one that I think was most important, thanks to Mr. Luchetti's comments when we were bidding out our buses last year, he asked about how do we make sure we balance this risk with having too many buses. So now all the elementary agreements are staggered, so that if one district decided not to continue with us, we could just simply roll off the buses that were related to that and we could drive on. We typically have about 40 buses for bid every year, and you see here by the memo here, you know, the highest new length 36 buses. So we would definitely have a little more safeguard than we had in the past when they used to all come up at one time. So with that, I would ask the board to go ahead and approve these agreements as presented.
Entertain a motion to approve the agreements as presented.
So moved.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion, a second. Any additional discussion regarding the agreement? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. Vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Next agenda item, Will County Transportation Consortium.
Yes, so this is a consortium that we've been in for a number of years. This is to do with our mandatory drug testing for our bus drivers. As you can see there, the consortium went out to bid, quite a variance in bidding. We would recommend going with the low bid, Riverside Workforce Health, at $19 per test for substance and alcohol testing.
Is there any reason that they're, oh, sorry.
No.
Is there any reason for that we know for the big difference between $19 and $68 for a test? It's just, no.
I don't know.
I believe it was like this the last time we did this as well. They were quite a bit lower the last time. I think it was it 2 years ago, Mike, or was it last year we did this? 2 years ago. And there was the same variance between the two prices.
Basically, yes.
19 is important.
They've done a great job, so.
Yeah, no issues with them?
No. Entertain a motion to accept the consortium recommendation.
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. Any additional comments? Now call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Next agenda item is the WRDR audit engagement letter.
Yes, administration would recommend that we go ahead and continue with the Warmers, Rogers, Dorm, and Zoran for WRDR. That's a lot easier. Our only concern, we felt like they've done a great job auditing, making sure everything is correct, but we have had a little struggle with communication on when, if there's been going to be extra charge. We really kind of not exactly happy with some of the extra charges from this year since they didn't give us what I felt was appropriate notice. So we have written into our contract very specific language, as you noticed there, that if they don't provide us with advance written notice for any additional charges above and beyond their quoted fee, that then we can go ahead and cancel the agreement. So I've made it very clear to Mr. Dave Myers that we expect written notification before they're going to do any work that exceeds their stated amount. And so you can see there I've listed what they had quoted versus what they billed. You know, I can't speak to prior years, but I know for this year I was not expecting that much in my bill. So they've quoted us, you can see there, 28.2 to the final year, 29.390. So we recommend go ahead and engage them for 3 years.
Can you give an example of what
We need to talk about
extra charges were for?
Yes, absolutely. So the extra charges for this fiscal year was the research to do with the impairment of our physical assets, which was Lincoln Way North High School. and then also the GASB 75 implementation. So,
It's hard, I mean, the quotes, you're getting quotes that are lower than, they're higher than what they quoted the last 3 years, but then the final build is over the amount they quoted in 2 or 3 years.
right. Well, I've made it very clear that I have to have written notification if they're doing work above and beyond that is quote billable. So my expectation is that this won't happen again without me discussing with the board, is there a request for additional work?
Is that where is that stipulated? Because I know you put in you can cancel the agreement, but where does it say that they can't proceed? I didn't see that.
No.
They can't
Well,
proceed without notifying us first. I think they know
Well,
we're going to exceed that cap.
The problem, right. The problem we have here is once we've engaged, we're in the middle of the audit process, we need the audit finished. So if they come back and say, well, we need to do X, Y, Z before we can give you an opinion, we're kind of going to, we can discuss it, but we need to move forward with it, most likely. What I'm most unhappy about is they weren't giving us written notice.
Right.
So if we don't get written notice, and we get our audit, and we get our bill, then I'm going to cancel the contract.
How many years have we been doing business with them, Grant?
We just finished 3 years with them.
So we'll do another 3 and then maybe an RFP after 6?
Certainly. Yeah, and I'm not saying that the additional work and billing was not justified. Right. I'm just saying we should have known in advance.
Nobody likes surprises. That was a surprise for me today, too.
No, but I mean, I do think the reason that they increased it is fine, but again, as long as you're comfortable that they have to now tell you in advance, that's the most important, because both of those were known in advance.
Right.
I mean, both of those were known that they would have to do additional work in advance. So, I mean, as long as you're comfortable with them, I think they've done a good job. I also think it helps that, they've been in for 3 years. We've had, they've gone through their audit findings. One of the big things was the comprehensive manual. We're going to have Sickich come in, do that. We agreed to that last meeting, and then they can audit off of that. So I think some uniformity there would be helpful, especially since we have another set of eyes coming in. So.
Any other questions regarding this? Set me off. If not, I'll entertain a motion to accept the audit as the recommendation for audit as presented.
So moved.
Second. Motion and second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open. Still a problem. Ms.
I got it
Doyle?
now. You got it?
Okay, Mr. Luciani?
Aye.
Very good. The vote is unanimous. The motion passes.
Talk to Mr. Meyer. Tell him when he speaks with us, speak kindly. Because I wiped the blood from you. All right. Policy second reading. Still not over it. So. All right. Scott, anything on the policy?
Are there any questions or clarifications that would be needed?
I just saw, and I don't know if it impacts us or not, but there were some new updates to the driver's education policies, and it referenced that we're now required to also instruct on motorcycle usage. Did you catch that? It was a nit, but I was like, really? Motorcycle?
It's the safety that's in the
720?
textbook. See, anything that would come out of that, because that comes from the state of Illinois.
Okay, we're not putting motorcycle.
No, you won't have the cool
But I caught it, and I was like, motorcycle. I think it's policy 720 or 6.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion to adapt the policy changes as presented.
So moved.
Motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote, please.
The vote is open.
Not yet.
All right.
Should I call the vote?
Please call.
Mrs. Glass?
Aye.
Ms. Janice Doyle.
Aye.
Mr. Lucetti.
Aye.
Mr. Lulo.
Aye.
Mr. Janik.
Aye.
Mr. Costick.
Aye.
Mr. Kirkland.
Aye. Thank
The
you.
vote is closed.
All right, next are informational items. First one is report on the Lincoln Way Special Ed District 843. Ron?
Yep. Due to illness, I wasn't there, but I touched base with the director. There was only one issue, personnel discussed in closed session, the issues being addressed. I'll give you more of an update. We're meeting Tuesday, so in February there'll be more. Co-op is doing fine, healthy. That concludes my report.
Okay. Any questions of Ron? If not, FOIAs.
There are no FOIAs.
Thank you. Next, long-term debt objectives.
Yes. Okay, so I went ahead and rewatched the board meeting, and based on the discussion with the PMA had with the board, I took the liberty of putting together a first draft of some long-term debt objectives, and would be willing, I'm glad to run over these, and then the board can discuss, and then we can bring it back at another meeting or whatever the board wishes. So, number one, consider all options for selling Lincoln Way North building and apply sales proceeds to current debt before restructuring any debt unless a sale does not occur prior to a significant debt milestone, like a large increase in payment or a major call date that the board would want to be concerned with. Two was no refinancing until the district's credit rating is at least Baa3, which is investment grade under Moody's scale. Third is do not issue additional zero coupon or capital appreciation bonds. Fourth was any refinancing should not extend the debt structure more than 3 years beyond the current schedule, which is levy year 2034. Number five, focus on total debt service dollar levy and not on debt service tax rate. And this is regarding the EAV discussion. We have zero control over the EAV. It can fluctuate up or down, but we have control over the other. Six, to the extent possible, the debt restructuring shall be done as tax exempt, except for non-callable bonds that cannot be defeased or repurchased. So there could be instances where it might be a viable option, but should be really scrutinized. And then finally, seven, no debt restructuring should be done without the review and analysis of how it impacts the long-term debt objectives. So I don't know if I captured, everything the board was thinking, but just kind of off those discussions that we had at that November meeting.
Any questions regarding Brad's recap?
I don't recall us discussing the 3 year, extending the debt out 3 years, refinancing, but we really wouldn't have much of a choice, would we?
Oh.
We did refinance? No, you could up it back.
Well, we looked at several
I
options.
don't farther out, but I'm talking going out at all rather than just refinancing to a different rate if we could without extending that. I don't remember a specific number there.
Sure. Go ahead.
Yeah, without seeing numbers, that would probably be the preference, but I think if you're gonna look at it, if we're gonna bring back a proposal at some point in time, we should still probably look at it.
Over 3 years.
Yeah, because what can you extend it out? You can extend it out up to 5 years, right? Legally.
I don't know. I'm not sure of any.
In their presentation, they added another 5 years.
Right. I think that was just specifically because of the scenario we were trying to model. I personally am not aware of any limitations on how far you could or couldn't extend a debt. The 5 years in that model was just because we were trying to hit those percentages.
It's illustrated.
So I can research that though.
And I think, Aaron, to your question, there was discussion around trying to avoid extending the maturities or reloading the amortization if we could possibly not do it.
Right.
And so that's kind of buried in with a couple of these others.
Right.
Where, hey, we can't really control this, but we can control this aspect of it and trying to play. So I think this just creates guideline. And we're not making any decisions here, just trying to give Brad and our friends at PMA something to focus on rather than just say, okay, go out and look at again, 1,000 different options.
Right. I just don't extend it.
Well, I don't think anybody does.
Right.
But then people do have those, I think. Okay.
We're going to keep it as a guideline, we don't need to bring it back and approve it formally.
No,
I don't think we do. but-
Scott, what's your real intention?
It'll fit into this next conversation of calendar, because you'll see kind of where it falls in here.
Okay, so the next would be the debt restructuring calendar. Is that right? Yes. Sorry, let me just pop that up here.
So, this timeline we have here, we say, go ahead and develop these objectives and then begin to look at other models or scenarios. One of the things, if, we'll bring back for discussion, but if the board did want to do something about the 2019 debt service ramp up that we're about to experience, this would be the timeline in which would have to meet if we were going to make any changes to that levy. So we can, next meeting, if there's any additional feedback on the objectives, we can take that at that point, and then if not, you'll just know that we'll administratively, I'll be following this timeline. So looking, like in August, really down to PMA, talking about how things are looking in the market, blah, 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 and we can bring back some additional things for the board to look at, so.
Just a quick
So
copy.
you're going
Go ahead, Chris.
I'm just gonna, so you're gonna use these objectives to come up with the March scenarios.
Well, no, in March, that's where I wanted to finalize the objectives. I wouldn't be looking to come back with some kind of things until August or, April, come back in April if there's if you have some
Oh,
reason.
so this is to, March 21st is to approve these?
Yes, I don't know if we need to approve.
Or just agree.
Give
Yeah, that
any
feedback.
more feedback. And I can research that, is there a maximum you can push something out?
I
There
think what I
probably
was
is.
thinking of is the time, how long bonds can be till maturity.
Right.
That's what.
Okay.
Do we need to push back these March and April dates by a month so we can discuss the objectives that Brad has in his memo to come back and?
Well, we have for March 21st, I'm sorry, February 21st. I misspoke. February 21st we'll come back, take any feedback, and then 21st and 22nd, we can, model up things.
I mean, I guess what I'm saying is come back over the next month, have conversations, and we can kind of see what the final draft of the objectives look like. Or does that have to be final draft right there?
No, but I think we can do that in February. I think this timeline works fine.
And remember, they're just objectives. They're not-
Yeah.
The question I would have is, we just approved the audit engagement letter, and part of one of our long-term objectives was to not do anything until we get upgraded. And I think the audit being completed on this current school year we're in is going to be a component of potentially doing that upgrade. Have you had any conversations with former Rogers during the Rudin about how quickly, and I know staff obviously has to be engaged as well, to get that audit completed so that we could
Yeah,
get
so.
those for the right?
Right, so my experience with auditors has been, getting the audit by October 15th is absolutely amazing, truthfully. So I will say, I think they've been doing a great job turning our audit around and getting it back to us in a timely manner. So October 15th, 2019 is when we can expect to have the audit done.
Have we reached out to Moody's since the last audit? Because we have it on here as in October 2019, I'm assuming that's after the next. But have we reached out to them to look at this after this last audit here?
We have not, we certainly can. One of the
recommendation from PMA was, because of the timing of us not doing anything, they felt it would be better if we're able to bring 2 completed audits back and more timing of more successful operations, and that was their recommendation.
I mean, they removed the negative rating.
Correct.
You would think maybe the next thing is to move it to a positive and then move it up. So I mean, and again, I mean, I would ask them still, but wouldn't you want to go back to Moody's and see if you can, with one, get
We can ask.
a step?
Bob's recommendation was, since you're not doing anything, the 2 years will be more powerful, but that's certainly something we can do. We can call again and ask, well, they'll just take the last audit. Because that's what we
we had.
proposed.
Yeah.
Yes.
Last audit, we had was positive.
Yep.
And ran surplus, and we moved from, and our cash balances moved up. Our cash balances moved up considerably in this last time around. The other things that they're looking at, the state has been paying. The state caught up somewhat. I mean, I'm just trying to think through all the things on the Moody's report that have been positive. So I don't, unless I'm missing something, and I don't want to push something that if I'm missing something, but I would go back to it and see what, I mean, what, if there's truly a negative to going to them right now. Because I would think, again, you know, the jump would be to a positive outlook. So still jump status but positive, and then your next step would be up into the investment grade. That's,
Yeah, we can call Bob and call Lee Anderson.
We'll call
again.
BMA. And I think you should, you know, obviously Chris just hit on about the 3 big ones, but have that list of obstacles that they, you know, because the state was a big one.
Yeah.
It was the state of Illinois. They said just because you're in the state of Illinois, it's going to be a negative. But you've at least got some commonality down in Springfield, whether you appreciate commonality or not is a discussion for a different day, but the likelihood of us going 2 years without a budget again has been minimized. And I would agree with Chris, and I would ask you to push PMA on this. The possibility of getting a double upgrade is heroic. Getting double downgraded, which we experienced, can happen, right? But for them to release you and say, or release us and go, hey, we're going to double upgrade you because you presented 2 audits, just logically seems a little troubling. So, because maybe even what we could, you know, again, we had this discussion outside of the meeting, if we need to formulate a strategy, but would even be to provide some form of interims. Because like the idea that you just showed us tonight, where, hey, here was our cash position in December of last year, here's our cash position now. So you show that the trend is your friend and everybody's moving in the right direction. Because otherwise, one of our objectives won't be met, and the other 6 objectives are irrelevant based on this schedule.
Right. I mean, when we were going through the process of looking at the consultants between PMA and Baird, they gave us, now Moody's won't, you know, give you advice on where you're at, but Moody's had provided them with kind of a worksheet with like the 5 different factors, and the 2 factors we were kind of behind on, which were both, you know, kind of lagging 5-year indicators. I mean, I would do a complete workup off of that worksheet and kind of project out where we were, are, and will be projecting that we can do this year, because, you know, we're halfway through the year and we're pretty much on budget, and what we would, you know, are kind of forecasting for that next year. Because again, I think it's much easier to go, when you're going up, they're a lot slower than when you're going down. And we need that, we need to get that rating up.
Yeah, I mean, if we've checked all the boxes, or a lot of the boxes over the past 9-10 months, you know, I don't think it hurts to.
Just and what I'm kind of suggesting is, and I'll find it, because actually, because I think it was Baird that gave it to us, not PMA. But just what you did in your what we're going to go over next, the financial profile score, and kind of going through the steps, we do that exact same thing with what Moody's is. And, you know, it's 2 to 3 pages, and you go over it with them. And I just don't see the drawback unless I'm missing something.
I'd agree. And then I'm going to go back to my comment as well, as I go back to my WRDR comment, is I appreciate you saying October 15th is heroic, but we like, hey, you know, we can get it October 10th, October 8th, even October 1st, you know, because if they come back to you and say, okay, well, we want the audit, we're basically saying in October, that gives us 2 weeks at the end of October to get it upgraded if we want to try and hit these deadlines.
Right. Yeah, that's something we'll bring back to PMA. I do think there were also complications, if I remember the conversation with Bob, of getting two within a 12-month period is getting two revisions from Moody's would be a challenge, but it doesn't hurt to ask. So we'd have to ask them, if you evaluate us now, will you do it again in October, 7-8 months later? But those were conversations we did have, because our meeting with Bob originally was we were hoping to do it after this audit and then after next one as well. So we'll get guidance and bring that back to the board in February. We'll have the answer.
Good. Anything else? Okay. Next is the files under the preliminary financial profiles.
Okay, so this is in the board for information. So it's, yeah, I'd say it's official. I mean, we kind of got the email from ISBE saying they're going to have no adjustments, but they haven't posted or put it out there as official. But the good news is the district is moving from financial watch to financial early warning. So as you know, the state of Illinois, Illinois Board of Education ranks school districts on four matrix: recognition, review, early warning, and financial watch. After 7 years of deficit spending, the district slid all the way to financial watch status, which is the lowest status you can have. We have now worked our way back to early warning. Based on the ratios, they rate you on 5 things. Fund balance to revenue ratio is a 35% weighted amount. Expenditure to revenue ratio, meaning you have a balanced budget, that's 35%.